Tuesday, April 10th, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I'm going to talk about a controversial subject. I will probably be censored by YouTube. My latest videos have gotten the yellow icon. They have been reviewed and put on green again, but I've lost quite a bit of revenue because they keep the yellow icon for quite a while when the video is gets the most views. So I like to thank all the people who have donated to the channel. And if you haven't donated it yet and would like to donate, there's some links below in the description. I appreciate it. Things are getting more and more, how can I say, authoritarian, I think, in the supposed free world that we live in. And I want to talk about this book here, very little book. It's not many pages. It's called War is a Racket by Smedley Butler. And what's going on in the world right now, which is, in my opinion, very concerning. And I also play a little clip of General Wesley Clark interview from 2007, which is very interesting and which shows what's really going on in the world. Before that, have a look at the markets. It's just before 8 o'clock here. It's around 10 to 8. Yesterday, the stock markets did finish up on the day, but I was watching them, and the Dow actually finished over 300 points, almost 400 points from its highs. This morning, they're back up. I still think the top is in. I've got a very good resistance as 24,500 in the Dow. It's that trend line that you've probably seen in the previous videos that I've done that comes from the top in January. Right now it comes at 24,500. So the Dow is up 388 points right now, or 1.61% at 24,368. S&P up 42 points, or 1.6% as well, 2655. The Nasdaq is up 138, just over 2% at 6,610. Gold and silver. Gold is down almost $3 at 1333. It held well yesterday. We saw it get slammed down as usual when Europe came in and the US came in. We got down to 1326, and we actually rallied quite well yesterday into the US close, which was encouraging. I think we settled around 1336, the spot. So overnight it's been 1331 to 1338 range. Silver outperformed gold a little yesterday, still at very suppressed levels, of course. There are a lot of articles I've seen there about how silver is ready to explode. Hopefully that will happen. It shows how the commitment of traders are pointing to that. I won't go into too much detail about that though. Right now we're unchanged at 1646. Range has been 1642 to 1654. Currencies, still fairly steady. The dollar did drop a bit yesterday afternoon. We are now 141.46, up 15 pips for the pound. Euro is down 3 pips, 123.20. And dollar is continuing higher against the yen here. It's 107.15, up 1/3%. The 10-year yield is at 280, so it's remained fairly elevated here. I saw an interesting article yesterday on Zero Hedge about some analysts, macro analysts. They didn't give sources, but they said they knew that, well, they said they had sources. They didn't say specifically that the Chinese government has actually stopped buying treasuries in the last few weeks, and that the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin had urged them not to do so, to stay put. It has to do, of course, with this trade war between the US and China. Don't think China wants to actually dump their treasuries, because that would be that would hurt them as well. It would start a run, and they have loads of the stuff. So it's amazing that we had the launch of the Petro Yuan, if you want to call it that, or the sour crude contract at the International Energy Exchange in Shanghai on the 26th of March. And even before that, of course, there's been a lot of saber rattling against Russia, the trade wars with China. And it doesn't seem to be a coincidence to me, because the petrodollar is the financing arm of the people who benefit from this, from war, is a racket. And unfortunately, it looks like President Trump has been forced or bullied into doing what the deep state, what the people who are in charge that we don't know want him to do. The Skripal case in the UK, that's been like totally discredited, at least for most people. The mainstream media, prostitutes, I call them. I mean, I think that was Gerald Celente who coined that phrase. They're still buying it. The Times of London, they must be a government mouthpiece, and all the other ones. Now they're saying, oh, the CIA is offering the Skripals witness protection to go to the States. Just implying that they're in danger of going back to Russia, even though the head scientist of the UK's main chemical weapons facility, Portendown, said that they can't tell where it came from. So totally discrediting the UK government. But now they found another reason to go after Russia. They're supposedly President Assad gassed his own people, even though the Americans were ready to leave Syria, the Russians were ready to leave, the civil war was almost finished. Why would Assad attack his own people with chemical weapons? We know a few years ago that a UN inspector said that it was most likely the rebels, which are supported by the deep state, unfortunately. So now they're forcing us probably into, I hope not, a war with Russia is existential in my opinion. I hope it doesn't happen. And it's weird. I don't think it's any coincidence that we're seeing this happen now, especially with what's going on financially. And that's why I'm talking about this, because it's financial. There's a good article yesterday about the Petro Yuan by Jeff Brown of the Saker blog. And I'll put the link below in the description. It says, Petro Yuan is the newest weapon for the China, Russia, Iran anti-US dollar alliance. Don't disagree with him. And he says at the end here, what you're going to do about it, Urangoland. I think that's the Europe, the EU, or the England and the Anglo-American Empire. That's what he calls it. What you're going to do about it, Urangoland. Uranglo-land. Sorry, it's a weird word. There's not a damn about this you can do, short of destroying humanity and the world. Sadly, there are many psychopaths in Washington, Brussels, London, and Paris who would prefer that, then accept imperial collapse. As usual, you have to go outside the Great Western Firewall and its propaganda big lie to see the real world. For those who want to delve deeper, RT has done an informative series of articles, and the South China Morning Post has done a couple of good ones. So, war is a racket. Well, what about Smedley Butler? I'll read about who he was. Smedley Darlington Butler was a United States Marine Corps Major General, the highest rank authorized at the time, and at the time of his death, the most decorated Marine in U.S. history. During his 34-year career as a Marine, He participated in military actions in the Philippines, China, Central America, and the Caribbean during the Banana Wars and France in World War I. Butler is well known for having later become an outspoken critic of U.S. wars and their consequences, as well as exposing the business plot and alleged plan to overthrow the U.S. government. I think that business plot was in 1933. So before I go further into this book, let's just listen to this clip of General Wesley Clark in this interview. He makes it sound funny, but I don't think it's funny. See if I can find it here.
And he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Well, I guess it's taking them more than 5 years, so they're behind plan. So what is a racket, according to Brigadier General Butler? He says, war is a racket. It always has been. It is possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It is the only one international in scope. It is the only one in which the profits are reckoned in dollars and the losses in lives. A racket is best described, I believe, as something that is not what it seems to the majority of the people. Only a small inside group knows what it is about. It is conducted for the benefit of the very few at the expense, excuse me, of the very many. Out of war, a few people make huge fortunes. So, and it goes on to say, in World War I, a mere handful generated the profits of the conflict. At least 21,000 new millionaires and billionaires were made in the United States during the World War. So, I guess nowadays it's the same thing. The big corporations, multinationals will benefit. The bankers will benefit. More debt, more financing. They'll also kill a few birds with one stone, so to speak. They'll get rid of people they don't like Assad, like the Iranian regime. They'll keep the Middle East in turmoil in order to keep Israel safe. And at the end here, there's a little table here where he talks about how the U.S. companies did from World War I. He has U.S. Steel, average profits in the last pre-war year, $105 million. Average profits during the 4 years of war, these are annual profits, $259 million. DuPont, average profit before the war, $6 million. After the war, $58 million. Or during the war, sorry, $58 million. Bethlehem Steel, $6.8 million before the war. During the war, $49 million. Anaconda Copper, $10 million before the war. During the war, $34.5 million. Utah Copper, $5.7 million before the war. During the war, $21.6 million. Let's have a look here. Anything else that looks really huge? Yeah, Atlas Powder, 485,000 before the war. During the war, 2.3 million. So you can see why war is interesting for a few people, not for those who go to fight there and die, and all their families that lose loved ones. They think they're fighting for some kind of cause, and they're not. So what's the best way to not help these people finance the wars? Well, I think one of the best ways is to have your wealth, or doesn't matter how big or small it is, that you have been able to save, keep it in physical gold and silver, keep it in your possession. Don't put it in the financial system, because the financial system, the fiat money system, is the financing arm for these people who run the racket. So if we keep it in their banks, we're financing them. I know I have a bank account, of course. I do keep a bit of money in there for direct debits, they call it here, to pay bills, but I try not to leave too much in there. So yeah, that's the best thing to do. Get out of the system. Don't finance them. Keep them in cryptocurrencies as well a bit, and physical gold and silver, or keep it at home. Keep the cash at home. You can keep their paper money if you want, but you're still financing them by doing that indirectly. So yeah, this video will definitely, you never know, Google is funny, or YouTube. They might give me a green icon for this, but I don't think so. So yeah, I hope this doesn't escalate. I've seen, some of you have probably seen President Putin at his State of the Union address on the 1st of March, and all the new weapons they have. Don't want to mess with the bear. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and you can also follow me on Steemit and DTube, and also on Twitter, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.